Welcome back to the Iron Grid, where we serve fresh takes weekly. Shout out to Caleb Crain for the intro as always. I'm your host, Ronan Summers. I'm here with the boys, Jake and Colby. Guys, how are you?
Doing great.
As well as I can with the being a Bears fan and all.
I mean, hey, it happens. But
Yep.
hey, there's brighter there's brighter pastures ahead, right?
Yeah, tomorrow is a new day, as they say.
Pastures, fields, see what I did there? We
Mm-hmm.
are 7 weeks through the 2021 season. We had a few moments where players were reunited with their former teams, and we also had a few surprises. What are some of your guys' takeaways from the Week 7 matchups? Colby, if you want to start off with the Thursday night Denver-Cleveland game.
So this game right going up into this week was headlined by the Browns injuries and along with the Broncos. Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield both didn't play this game along with Kareem Hunt. And Teddy Bridgewater was playing hurt throughout the game. And it was a 17-14 win for the Cleveland Browns. It was honestly led by Dearness Johnson in his very first start, getting 22 carries for 146 yards and a touchdown. Case Keenum played like a veteran, not throwing 199 yards, a touchdown, going 21 for 33. He's playing like how I thought Geno Smith would play, but we'll get into him later. Austin Hooper led the Browns with 42 yards with 2 catches. Jarvis had 5 for 37. Odell only had 2 for 23. And I've been seeing a lot of posts on Instagram saying like he should be getting traded before the Tuesday deadline coming up. Anthony Walker had 10 total tackles. Mac Wilson had 6 total tackles. John Johnson ended up getting a pick, and that's it for the Browns. Teddy Bridgewater was 23 for 33, 2 touchdowns, a pick. Javonte had 4 carries for 20 yards. Melvin Gordon only had 8 rushes for 18 yards. They really couldn't get anything going on the ground. Cortland Sutton had 5 catches for 68 yards. Noah Fant had 5 for 39. Javonte ended up scoring through the air, though, with 6 catches and 32 yards. Kareem Jackson led the defense in 9 total tackles. And, yeah, that's the most
How
for
about Dearness Johnson, man?
getting you that.
Thank you, Dearness. Woo! I
Who's
needed that.
was
Yeah,
looking
you
better?
did. You know,
Kareem out, Johnson in.
it feels good to look down at the bottom of the fantasy league and see that Ronan now has more wins than I have losses.
Hey,
Finally.
we're getting there. We're getting there. We had a little bit of a rocky start.
Yeah, it happens in fantasy. You never know how it's going to go. The game was honestly a lot closer than I thought, but I think that's to be expected when the Browns starting quarterback and their top 2 running backs are all out. But I think Bridgewater played better than I expected him to play. Keenum, like you said, played like a veteran, played how I do expect Geno Smith to play in his position, but again, we'll get to that later. All around, not a bad Thursday night game. Very defensive, which is something I like to see. I like defense, but it's I expect a lot from both teams going ahead. Honestly, let's go ahead and look at another one of the matchups. Chicago and Tampa Bay. Man, there's not much to say about Chicago, is there? Justin Fields, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks, an abundance of fumbles. It was not a great day for the rookie and under center. Um, only he was 22 for 32, which doesn't sound bad, but only 184 yards and not a single passing touchdown. Their only points came from field goal. Final score was 38-3. Khalil Herbert, though, 100 yards on the dot. He's the first back all season to have 100 rushing yards against the Bucks, at least according to the Bears Instagram page. Cole Kmet, 43 yards on 5 receptions. Darnell Mooney, 39 yards on 2 receptions. Allen Robinson, only 2 receptions and 16 yards. He's not getting a lot of love recently, and that begs the question, what do they do with him? But we can get to that later. The defense, not a single sack, not a single interception, 1 fumble recovery, 8 total tackles by Roquan Smith that led the lead or led the team. Not a great day by Chicago. Tom Brady, though, doing Tom Brady things. Threw for his 600th touchdown on the season, 4 total touchdowns in the game, only 211 yards. Chris Godwin, 111 yards and a touchdown. Mike Evans, 3 touchdowns, got the hat trick. 76 yards. Leonard Fournette, 81 yards and a rushing touchdown, as well as 4 targets. All around what you kind of expect from Tampa Bay against Chicago. Kind of expected Chicago's defense to be a little bit better, but with Akeem Hicks out during the game, there's only so much they can do to stop Tom Brady and that run defense, or that run offense, I should say.
In
On defense, I'm sorry. I'll just finish this real quick and then you can get in. On defense, Jason Pierre-Paul, 2 sacks. Shaq Barrett, a sack. Antoine Winfield, a sack. Shaq Barrett also had a fumble recovery. Pierre Desir with an interception. I believe it's James Whitehead, if I'm not mistaken, with an interception. Their defense.
Jordan?
Is it Jordan Whitehead?
Jordan Whitehead.
It's Jordan Whitehead. Okay, well, he had an interception. Tampa Bay's defense looked like what we expect from a defending Super Bowl champion. So, like I said, not a whole lot to talk about in the game. All I can say is that dude should have held onto the ball and gambled a little bit more, or asked for a little bit more in return for giving away Tom Brady's 600th touchdown ball.
I was wanting to ask you guys about that. If you were in his situation, what are you giving that football back, or are you keeping it?
I mean, right now, I'm pretty sure. What did he say on the Manning cast last night? Didn't he say it was like an NFT or something? That's going for a ton, I'm sure. But go ahead.
No, you got it.
I would have at least negotiated a little bit. I mean, I think he obviously got some stuff, but I mean, season tickets for 2 years, you got it at least a decade, right? Like,
That's what I was thinking.
little generous act. I'm letting you have the ball. You let me sit in the box seats for the next decade. I feel like that's fair.
I'd say so.
The guy ended up getting away with 2 signed jerseys, Mike Evans cleats, a Bitcoin, and I think another game ball and those season tickets, and $1,000 in the team store, which that'll get you 3 jerseys.
I think it was 2 signed Brady jerseys and a helmet, if I'm not mistaken.
There was a helmet in there.
And a Mike Evans jersey as well. I don't know if it was the cleats included.
It was Mike Evans game cleats.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah.
so I read something different. Yeah, I would have gambled maybe at least 5 years of 2 season tickets. That's enough to bring me and my son for the next 5 years to every home game. I'd take that.
But all right, transitioning into the very next game, we got a Tennessee, Kansas City. Tennessee routed the Chiefs 27-3. Tannehill played an exceptional game, went 21 for 27 with 270 yards, a touchdown and 1 interception. Pretty pedestrian. Not the yards. The yards were there, but the touchdown and the interception makes it sound like it wasn't that good of a day. But Ryan Tannehill started off 11 for 11 against the Chiefs defense, just hammering it home how they have no form of defense over there anymore. Derrick Henry had 29 carries for 86 yards, no touchdowns. A.J. Brown led the Titans with 8 catches, 133 yards, a touchdown. Julio only had 2 catches for 38 yards. And Mecole Pruitt, 2 catches, 27 yards, and a touchdown. That was thrown by Derrick Henry. And defense had Dane Cruikshank had 8 total tackles along with David Long. Rashaan Evans ended up getting an interception, just making life a living hell for Patrick Mahomes. And over onto the Chiefs side, Mahomes went 20 for 35, 206 yards, 0 touchdowns, a pick. Just he looks like he's forcing everything is just being forced on offense. Mahomes he led the team in rushing with 6 carries, 35 yards. Darrell Williams had 5 carries for 20 yards. Byron Pringle led the team in receiving yards with 5 catches for 73 yards. Kelsey had 7 catches for 65 yards. Hill had 6 for 49. Nobody scored through the air. Nick Bolton, the rookie, had 15 total tackles. It led the KC defense, and Willie Gay got an interception on Ryan Tannehill.
How about Derrick Henry kind of I wouldn't say shut down, but you said 20, I want to say 29 attempts for 80 something yards?
29 for 86.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. That that's
That's
pretty that's
it's
something to hang your hat on. I
that's
If
don't
you're
low
that's
for
maybe
him.
the only thing.
Yeah, I mean it's
The only
low for
thing.
Henry, but like it's still that's not a game to like look at and be like, wasn't that great of a rushing game. 86 yards is nothing to scoff at, especially if it's productive. Um, I
Oh
that was
yeah.
I think that was honestly one of my favorite games to watch this week. Um, Tennessee was just taking it at Kansas City, and it was enjoyable to watch, I guess. Not because Kansas City's downfall, but to see how well Tennessee is playing right now.
if you're a Chiefs fan and you look at this, if you're told a Chiefs fan before this game that you would hold Derrick Henry to under 100 yards on 30 carries, they would be smiling. They would think we'd have a chance in this game. And then you just see all the mistakes that Patrick Mahomes and that offense were making, and then Ryan Tannehill just having whatever he wants through the air.
Yeah, we're gonna take it to the next game now. Green Bay and the Washington football team. This game in the first half was honestly very entertaining. I was sitting there watching it. Very defensive first half. Washington, Taylor Heineke, 25 for 37, 268 yards, a passing touchdown, and an interception, but 4 sacks. That's not something you want. Heineke also led the team in rushing yards with 95 on 10 attempts. Gibson only had 51 rushing yards on 14 attempts. Terry McLaurin had their only touchdown with 122 yards and 7 receptions. So offensively, wasn't great. The play calling at some points for Washington wasn't the best, I will say. They only scored 10 points. So, but I think if a few plays were called differently, Washington would have been in this game till the very end. Their defense, one fumble recovery, 3 sacks on Rodgers. That's not bad. Against Aaron Rodgers, 3 sacks, you'll take that. But Aaron Rodgers still did his thing. 27 for 35, 274 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Aaron Jones, the rushing defense was not great for Green Bay. Aaron Jones led the team in rushing yards with 19 yards. Aaron Rodgers was second with 17 yards. Not a great rushing day for Green Bay, but Devontae Adams, 76 yards and a touchdown. Robert Tonyan, 63 yards and a touchdown. Alan Lazard, 60 yards and a touchdown. The passing game was great. Washington needs to work on their passing defense, and they could be looking for a wild card spot in the coming years if they just work on the passing defense and get some offensive linemen for their quarterbacks.
Yeah, that Washington front is that's top tier. That's among the top in the league. I can't think of very many. Maybe Tampa, and maybe Arizona, but other than that, I'm not sure how many other fronts are better. I don't know where you guys rank them, but
I think it definitely puts them in the conversation. It would have been hard to look at. Like before the game, you look at Washington and you're like, you know, middle of the road team. Defense, lower than middle of the road if we're being honest, but defense probably not that great considering they're 2-5. But you look at games like this, and they get 3 sacks against Aaron Rodgers and basically shut down. Now they did shut down their rushing offense. It's nothing to scoff at.
no, that they have the concoction to be good in the future. They've got a couple, Chase Young, Ioannidis, uh, I can't even think of everybody. Sweat, I think he's
Allen.
in Allen. Yeah, so I mean that front, it's kind of scary.
Yep.
You know, the Washington team, it seems like they're going to fight and claw and be in every single game that they're in. That's just the kind of roster that they have now. Now, like they've been to the playoffs, they know what that's like. I think it's just going to be that offensive line and the quarterback position. I'm not saying that Taylor Heineke's not the person for that spot, it's you'd think that you'd want somebody a lot better. I don't know if there would be anybody better than Heineke in the draft.
Yeah, that's I'm not sure about this draft class.
It's kind of like questioning the Ryan Fitzpatrick signing in the offseason. Didn't think that would put him over into like Super Bowl contention, but they were in the playoffs with Alex Smith and all that. You just think they're try it next year, because I don't think they're going to end up re-signing Fitzpatrick. I'm pretty sure he only signed a 1-year deal with them.
Yeah, I doubt Fitzpatrick comes back, especially after that injury. They'll probably cut ties with him, probably as soon as possible. All right, so let's switch over to the Detroit and LA game. The Lions took on the Rams. The final score was Detroit 19, Rams 28. It was a lot closer than I thought it would have been. The Lions ended up recovering an onside kick right after scoring on their opening drive, and they converted for a first down twice on special teams with their punt formation out there. It was basically Dan Campbell playing Madden, and it was pretty fun to watch. I told pretty much everybody because I got a few texts during the game. Like what the hell is going on? And if it were happening to any other team, I would be laughing my ass off. But it just so happened to be against the Rams, so I had to respect it at least. The Lions had the lead for the majority of the first half. Uh, the Rams really weren't able to find a rhythm on offense in the first half. They didn't get on the field until I want to say seven and some change left in the first quarter. So Matthew Stafford finally got out on the field. They scored a field goal on their opening drive. They were finally able to get into the end zone in the second quarter. But the game really came down to the Lions ended up being down by 6, and they were driving. They shaved 9 minutes off of the clock, and they were in the red zone. Aaron Donald comes rushing in at Goff, and Goff throws it right to his old buddy Jalen Ramsey. And that kind of sealed the game. But let's get into the stats. Jared Goff had 20. He went 22 for 36 for 268 yards, one touchdown and 2 picks. Those 2 picks came in the fourth quarter. I don't want to say same old, but I was not surprised in the slightest that under pressure he folded a bit. Now, it wasn't necessarily all of his fault, and he did have a good day. I absolutely, at least the first 3 quarters of the day, I was very afraid of what was going on. Jamal Williams had 57 rushing yards. DeAndre Swift had 48. Khalif Raymond had 6 receptions and 115 yards. And Swift had 8 receptions for 96 receiving yards for a touchdown. And Julian Okwara had a sack. Matthew Stafford, 28 for 41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Darrell Henderson, 15 attempts, 45 yards. They weren't really able to get anything going on the ground. Granted, they were honestly playing from behind for a lot of the game, or at least, they really weren't in the driver's seat, able to kind of pull away with the run game. So Stafford definitely had to take the load. Cooper Kupp, 10 receptions, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's up there in the best in the league this year. Robert Woods, 6 receptions, 70 yards. And Jalen Ramsey and Nick Scott both had interceptions in the fourth quarter.
I mean, there's a reason we call him Jared Goof, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it didn't really I don't want to say it didn't surprise me, but it didn't.
I mean,
He was kind of notorious for it.
he played well, and in that fourth quarter, he just kind of broke down. Which again, don't want to say like surprise, but it's Jared Goff still has a lot to work on. Yes, he did take the Rams to a Super Bowl, but it's kind of been downhill for him. And weirdly enough, this has been one of the better games I've seen from him on Detroit until those 2 interceptions. So Goff has a lot to work on. The Rams, if they can get their running game going, they will be a force to be reckoned with, like they're not already, but they'll definitely be in Super Bowl talks if they can just get that run game going a little more.
Yeah, no, if that run game was consistent, they would be up with the Bucks as like the top seed in the NFC and the Cardinals.
Yeah, we are really aching for Cam Akers. I actually just saw a report a little bit ago that said that we might be able to have Cam Akers back if they make the playoffs, if
I
the
thought
Rams
he,
make the
I
playoffs.
thought he tore his ACL. I thought he was.
Achilles.
Ooh,
Mm.
think
Yeah,
about that
so
longer.
still painful.
That's what Sherman had to deal with at the end of his Seahawks days. He ruptured his Achilles.
Yeah. So it would be awesome if we could have him back, but honestly, I don't really want to rush him. Like if he's ready, definitely put him in, but we need to make sure that he thinks he's ready and the doctors think he's ready. But we'll go ahead and talk about the Cincinnati Baltimore game. That was kind of like the Kansas City Tennessee game, wasn't it? Just we expected it to be close, and then it just was an absolute total blowout. Uh,
Mm.
the Bengals made their stake to the claim for Kings of the AFC North. I think that was a big statement game. I was really surprised by the outcome. I didn't think Baltimore would lose at home this badly. I thought the Bengals might have had a chance to for a little upset, but I did not think it was going to end up like that. But
Yeah,
let's go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. That I like I said, I expected it to, or like you said, I expected it to be a lot closer, and I expected it to actually go in Baltimore's favor after their big win last week.
Yeah, I did too. I did not think that Baltimore was going to look like that coming off that big win. But Lamar 15 for 31 for 257. He had a touchdown, no interceptions. He was also the team's leading rusher with 88 yards. Rashad Bateman and Hollywood Brown both had 80 yards on the dot, and Marquise Hollywood Brown had the only receiving touchdown of the day. Marlon Humphrey had an interception for the Baltimore defense. For the Cincinnati side, Burrow had a monster day. 23 for 38 for 416 yards. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That one was to Marlon Humphrey, like I said. Joe Mixon ran for 59 yards, and Samaje Perine had 52 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase made up for damn near half of Burrow's 400 yards with 8 receptions, 201 yards, and a touchdown. CJ Uzoma had 3 receptions for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was pretty efficient. T. Higgins also had 7 receptions for 62 yards. So that Cincinnati receiving core, just pass catcher core, they went nuts.
Yeah, that's nothing to
Uh,
scoff at if you're an opposing
no,
defense.
definitely not. You need to pay attention to them. They are I don't want to say they're for real because I don't think they can knock out some teams in the playoffs. But right
It's
now they're up there.
it's such a young team. It's hard to decide, like, could they knock off this team if it came down to it in January, or are they still just too young to make that push?
I think the offense would be able to carry them if they were to make it to the playoffs, but I do see their downfall would have to be the defense. They
Yeah.
shut down Baltimore. Granted, I do give them that, but they, other than the Lamar 88 yards, Freeman had 14 yards, Tyson Williams had 10 yards, Le'Veon Bell had 5 yards. They shut them down, but I don't think that other teams. I mean, if you give Baltimore J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, I think this is also a completely different game.
And I was talking to a friend during the game, and he said, honestly, I think Baltimore's offense is just predictable at this point. And I said, honestly, I might have to agree with you after how Cincinnati's defense played. They really didn't play all that bad, better than we've seen in the last few weeks.
Well, they don't really have a run game. I mean, they do now that everyone in that room has been there for a little bit, but they didn't really have a run game to start out the season.
That's true.
And whenever you pair that with your wide receiver one being Marquise Brown. He's good, but I mean, he's at his best whenever he's dipping down the field, getting behind the secondary. So I don't know if they're necessarily predictable. I think with Lamar, you can't ever call that offense predictable because there are so many things that they can do. It's just whether or not they do it.
I think that's fair, honestly. With a quarterback like Lamar, yeah, it can't be predictable, but in certain situations, they've kind of stuck to a specific rhythm, but that also might be because of their running backs being down of injury and everything. So I don't know. I won't say completely predictable, but there are some things that's like, well, if it's this down in distance, you kind of know what they're going to do.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go to the other segment called the Grill. Since we were just talking about Lamar, I'm gonna go ahead and start this one off with a question for you, Jake.
Oh boy.
All right, who would you rather have? Just starting a team, or which quarterback would you rather build around? Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson?
These are your favorite questions, and I love it because there's so many different ways you can look at this. I think with my personal style, like how I like a game to be played, I would go with Kyler. Um, Kyler, he's had a great season so far. He played very well last season, but this season is definitely a jump up. You can make the same argument for Lamar Jackson this year, but I think Kyler, he's a little more accurate, if you ask me, with his passing. I feel like he's able to kind of read a situation a little better at some points. I mean, there's a reason the team is still undefeated. So I'm gonna have to go Kyler, but it's a very close choice for me.
Yeah, I personally I have no idea who I'd pick between the two. I think I'd say Lamar, at least for right now. I definitely think Kyler's having the better season, but if I'm starting a team, I want Lamar Jackson.
I think that's fair.
All right, next question: Are the Bengals for real?
Um, I fall in a weird middle area with the Bengals. Their defense is nothing spectacular, though they did play really well against Baltimore this week. It's still a question of how much they're going to give up. Because Lamar really didn't have that bad of a game passing, if we're being honest.
No,
Um,
not at all.
their run game was what was shut down, and if you can shut down any team's run game and at least be competitive against their pass game, you can win a ball game. And I think that's what the Bengals did this week. But it's like I said earlier, is this team too young and too that doesn't have the experience? Are they not prepared to make a run in January, or do they have just enough to go the distance and potentially go all the way? And if you ask me, I think they're still just a little too young. I think they might squeak in the wild card, go second in the division probably, but I don't think they can go the distance. So I guess my answer is yes, but
Not yet.
I need another week like this past week to really prove it to me.
Who were the Bengals' second loss? I know they lost to the Packers, but who was that second loss?
Well, they lost to the Bears, did they not?
No, they ended up coming back against the Bears.
I think
They lost. I want to say
no, the Bears did beat them 20-17.
yeah.
Oh, the Bears did. Gotcha. Well, both of those teams have top defenses. I mean, Baltimore doesn't have. I'm not saying they don't have a top defense. I just want to see what they did against Baltimore. I want to see them against one of the top playoff teams, like of this season. That like we know that is going to make the playoffs. I mean, Baltimore.
Right.
They're gonna make Baltimore and Cincinnati. They're both gonna make the playoffs. I think, in my opinion. I don't know which one's gonna win the division.
I think Baltimore can probably run away with that division once they just get their game plan down and can it play a little bit more competitively with other defenses.
All right, so last question for you. Now this is barring any movement in the cases or anything. Do you think Deshaun will be moved by the trade deadline? Deshaun Watson?
I haven't really seen a lot of action other than the report late last week of the Dolphins potentially getting a deal done with them for Deshaun in the coming days. But ever since that report, and I want to say that was Friday or Saturday, I haven't heard anything else. But if they're close to a deal there, I could see it happening. Um, the question then just becomes, is he going to play? Um,
Right.
if Houston doesn't get a deal done with anybody, which obviously right now it's looking most likely going to be Miami, and I'm curious as to what they're going to give up for that or what Houston is willing to take for that. Um, I I don't know. It's a very rough situation there. Even if
Yeah.
taking away the cases and everything outside of like off the field, outside of the locker room, even if you just take those away, it's still a weird situation that I have no clue where it's going to go.
Yeah, I saw a report where he used his no trade clause on Philly. He said no to Philly. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't that's that's kind of weird because I don't I would say that those they're still young. I would say Philly probably has I won't say better weapons there, but I'd say they still I feel like he could do better in that offense than in Miami's offense.
Oh no, that Miami offense. I
Deshaun
feel like
Watson, plug and play for Miami.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like he would flourish in Miami.
And with Brian Flores as his head coach in that defense,
Yeah, that defense and
Well, I think he'd
yeah,
play well.
everybody.
I think honestly he'd play well no matter where he went. I mean, before this all happened, he was still playing with some of the best QBs in the league. So I think he'd play well no matter where he went. I just think that maybe in a different offense, and that's not taking anything away from Miami's offense, like you guys said, he would probably play very well there. But I think in some other offenses, he'd play a little better. So I guess it's my turn to ask a few questions. And Colby, I've got some spicy ones for you here.
go ahead and fire whenever you're ready.
All right. So my first question, and I'll try to keep these a little short. Who has been the biggest surprise to you this season? The Bengals or the Raiders?
Ooh. I'd have to go Bengals. They did Joe Burrow. He looks. I mean, he showed flashes in his rookie year and all, and showed why he was the number one overall pick. But it looks like this year he's just going off with Jamar. But the Raiders, I still got to. I don't like how they got their bye week this week. They've gotten 2 straight wins. I want to see them keep going. I don't want to see this bye week kind of mess up their flow or anything or what they got going on. But most surprising, it'd have to be Cincinnati. I did not think that defense was going to play up to the standard that they have.
I think I definitely agree with you there. I expected the Raiders to maybe have a win or two at this point, but not be playing with some of the better teams in the league right now as far as records go. Um, Second question, Tom Brady. We talked about it earlier. Tossed for his 600th touchdown pass this week. Um, who do you think will finish higher on the touchdown leaderboards, Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
I I don't think that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to end up being second. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that he'll be able to play until he's 46. I think Aaron might hang it up at 41, 42. What we see from Tom Brady is just unnatural at this point. I think Tom Brady might end up getting 700 before he's done.
Do you think Rodgers will get pretty close to Brady?
I need to go look at the numbers, see how many touch Rodgers threw for 400 last year.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he got 420 a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago.
he got 420 against Pittsburgh. I think I could see Aaron ending up in like the high fives, but maybe hitting six. But I think Tom has that record any of the passing records honestly on lock. It's honestly, we gotta see what Aaron Rodgers does with the rest of his career, what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make. But I think a lot of people are saying that once Rodgers gets out of his Green Bay contract, he says he could go another 5 years after Green Bay at least. And I think if he can do that and still put up 30 touchdowns a year, he'll get pretty close to that mark. He'll get
Oh,
pretty close.
if the trade rumors that were true before the draft this year that he was going to go to Denver, he could easily be putting up Peyton Manning numbers every year. Like Peyton Manning's 2013 year. Yeah, I mean, in Denver, he would have all the weapons. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the weapons in Green Bay because he has the top 5 running back, the number 1 receiver in the league, and a not so bad offensive line,
Mhm.
barring injuries.
All right, so I'm going to get to my last question. It's another QB related question. We were talking before the show about Carson Wentz and how he's played pretty well this year, all things considered. Which QB has made the bigger impression on you this year, Carson Wentz or Jameis Winston?
See, I have seen nothing change out of Jameis Winston. I still see the one game that he plays like how he threw for the most yards in that 2019 it was 2019 year. How he led the league in passing. You see those games, but then you also see the games against the Panthers where his offense is shut down. We also doesn't have Mike Thomas. He doesn't have his team is also injury plagued. But who was the other one? I'm sorry.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, no, it has to be Carson Wentz. He was the turnover bug in Philly last year, coming over to this year, only having the 2 interceptions. He could have thrown 5 again against the 49ers in that rain game. But then again, Jimmy Garoppolo could have also had 4 interceptions, like playing in those weather. But for bigger impression, it has to be Carson Wentz because the Colts might actually have something in him.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jameis Winston, 13 touchdowns and 1 pick on the season so far, but he's a little lower on the numbers than you'd probably like to see. You hear 13 touchdowns, you're like, yeah, that sounds it's pretty good. How are his yards? They're only at 1,003, but that's not bad. That's nothing to scoff at, you know? Um, so for me, it'd probably be Jameis. He's definitely had a bigger turnaround than I think a lot of people expected. But I think it's a very close conversation because
They're kind
Carson
of. Go ahead.
because Carson has only 2 interceptions. They're both playing a lot better than a lot of people expected them to play, especially coming off of injury. In terms of Carson Wentz, um, but I don't know. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on between those two going through the end of the season.
But they're kind of in the same situation. They both left their former team being turnover prone quarterbacks, going over to the new team, not committing as many turnovers, but probably not getting as many like wins as you would hope that they would. But I think the Colts could probably get something going with Quentin Nelson coming back as well. That run game is killer. Not saying the Saints aren't this. I thought the Saints would do a lot better against the Seahawks this week than only winning by 3.
Yeah, Ronan, you want to get your take in on this because I'm interested to hear what you'd have to say.
Yeah, I guess I'll be the split decision, right? Or
I,
I'll unsplit the decision.
I guess.
I'm gonna go. Ugh, I've been listening to you guys go trying to decide. I'm gonna have to side with Jameis maybe. I think what he's been able to do with the offense that's around him, it, he has it's not much. It hasn't been a ton, but he also doesn't have a ton around him. So he's been able to make do, and he's been able to be surgical, and that's what they needed him to do.
Alrighty, Ronan, I got a couple questions for you.
Hit me.
So we all got a main theme with it. It's a bunch of AFC North like based questions, and I got 2 of them. One relates with an AFC North person, but the first question With both of them seemingly putting up record numbers in both of their rookie years, who would you rather have to start off your franchise, Jamar Chase or Randy Moss?
Oh, Jamar Chase or Randy Moss?
They are putting up
Randy Moss.
through 7 games.
Come on.
Through the 7 games, Jamar Chase has more yards than Randy Moss. So there is
Randy Moss is Randy Moss. Hey, I will take Jamar Chase whenever someone jumping over a corner and catching the ball is called chasing someone.
might have to after putting up 200 yards against Marlon Humphrey.
No, I'm with you, and I'm on the Bengals hype train right now, but I am not that far on. I thought you were going to say like Jamar Chase or Jay Jettas.
I think both would have been interesting questions. He has more yards than Randy Moss did through 7 games.
Jamar Chase has put up more yards than Randy Moss has.
Man,
I hope he ends up being better.
I think Jamar Chase has like a specific skill set to me that don't get me wrong, Randy Moss, he was fast and he could jump with the best corners and safeties in the league. So I think I'd take Randy Moss, but that was also like we've seen his career, we've seen what he does. If we were to take him, his rookie self, and build around him now, we don't know what his career would look like, how different it would be, in 2021 on. But I think, honestly, I don't mind that question. I think it's a good question after bringing up that stat. I think most people would probably take Randy Moss, but I think it does go to show just how well Jamar Chase is adapting to this league after the whole not liking the size of the footballs thing over the training camp and everything.
Okay, I guess that's fair. Me putting a rookie up against a Hall of Famer, yeah. But then we can go ahead and I want to get your guys' take on that. Then Jamar Chase or Jay Jettis for their rookie years.
Yeah, I'd take Chase. I think he's on pace to annihilate the record, isn't he?
Pretty sure. I mean, if he's beating Randy Moss through 7 weeks, I'm pretty sure he's on pace to smash Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson's record. Both LSU receivers, starting with Jay.
I think I'd take Jefferson. He made such a great impression on me his rookie year that it's just kind of stuck with me, especially as an NFC North fan. So I think I'd probably go with Jefferson, but again, Chase has exceeded my expectations for him by a long shot so far. So I don't know. It's a very close debate on that one.
Alrighty, so I got another question for you. Seemingly with the AFC North just being a powerhouse full of playoff teams, who do you think is going to come out of the AFC North? With that being like division winner or like another wild card team out of that division?
You know, I don't know who's going to win that division. That is such a toss-up still. There's not really a clear favorite. Because, I mean, right now the momentum's in Cincinnati. And 3 weeks ago, no one was bringing up Cincinnati to win that division. So, I still like the Browns a lot. I think if they can get healthy, they can be really effective. But Baker's going to be injured all year long. So I'm not really sold on them anymore. Just because of his torn labrum, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Partially torn, maybe. Baltimore. I'd probably go Baltimore with the winning the division. I think Cincy might have a chance at getting into the wild card.
That division is a lot. Go ahead.
So you think Cleveland and Pittsburgh just completely out of the playoffs?
Yeah. I think the AFC is. I mean, we've seen it. It's tough. There are multiple teams in each division that can fight for the number 1 spot. I mean, AFC South, you've got Tennessee and Indianapolis. I'm not really sure how that's how that fight's going to go. I think Tennessee has the edge, but Indy can, at the very least, get a wild card spot. Then you've got AFC West with Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs. Broncos have a decent record right now. I don't see them really being in the conversation by the end of the year, though. But Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, those three teams are all in the playoff picture. I think it'll be tough for the Pittsburgh and Cleveland, with Cleveland having Baker hurt and Pittsburgh's offense isn't necessarily dynamic. Juju's out. I think it might be the top two teams that are right now, Cincy and Baltimore, but that may just be recency biased as well.
Hey, Pittsburgh's just looking to go above 500. That's all.
This
We're not.
division is looking a lot like how we kind of expected the NFC West to go. And the NFC West, there's two clear-cut favorites, and the other two are just kind of dwindling on the bottom. But
Yeah, 100%.
obviously Russ got injured. That'll hurt the Seahawks, and the Niners aren't playing up to standard, if you ask me. But that AFC North division is a battleground right now. I feel like if any team can just get the right momentum and get something right on either side of the ball, they can make a big push and take that division over. It's just, when is it going to happen?
Alrighty, going into the final question, with KC seeming like to be a different team every single other week, who's to blame for their recent sputtering?
I'm going to give a little bit of a hot take here. I think it's because of the rearrangement of their offensive line. Now, their defense has been atrocious, do not get me wrong. But Patty, he's gotten comfortable behind that offensive line he had years prior. And now he has a few new faces. Everything's kind of moved around a little bit. I think that has taken a bigger toll than people expected it to. And I think that's why he's become a little bit trigger happy. I mean, he's always been trigger happy. He's a strong-armed quarterback, and that's just the price you pay. Turnovers are going to be a thing if your dude has a cannon. And I'm sure Andy Reid knows that. But I'm going to say the offensive line being rearranged. I wouldn't even say it's because of poor play. Because I don't know all the stats. I don't have them all in front of me at the moment. But I just feel like Mitchell Schwartz, Fisher, guys like that were very, very, very helpful and beneficial for Patty.
No, the right tackle. I'm pretty sure he sat out the last year. He sat out like for COVID, so that's basically his rookie year. They signed the big left tackle out of Baltimore, Orlando Brown. They got Creed Humphrey through the draft. They got the guard out of New England, Joe Tooney. And I'm not sure who's starting at that other guard spot, but yeah, they've. It was a complete 180 from their offensive line, like going into the playoffs last year. I know how it got beat up through the playoffs, and that's what ended up getting Mahomes killed. So you think with them flipping every single position that it would fix it, but it just seems like it's creating more problems. Jake, what do you think?
I think it was a way. I remember us talking in free agency once they cut their two starting tackles. We were like, okay, like what's the point behind this? And then we were like, they signed two better offensive linemen. Like it looks like it's going to be another trip to the Super Bowl for Kansas City. But Ronan, I don't think that's the hottest take in the world. I just think that people aren't realizing just how much of a toll that offensive line switch has taken on Patrick Mahomes in that offense.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it's necessarily a hot take, but whenever you ask most people, they'll say the defense because that defense has been horrible this season.
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
I agree. That defense is not. You look at guys like Tyrann Mathieu, and you expect him to just help control that defense and kind of play a field general, and yet even he's having his own problems in games, and you can see it just watching back game film against certain teams. Um, but I think it's a lot to do on both sides of the ball. Patrick Mahomes has at least one interception in the last six. He has 16 interceptions in 16 games, and at least one interception in the last 7, if I read that correctly.
Hmm.
There's a lot of problems, and it's not just the defense, but I think a lot of it does have to do with how the pressure is getting to Mahomes if the offensive line collapses. So I think what you said makes a lot of sense, and I think it also translates to how Patty has been playing recently.
All right, so transitioning into our next topic, we got our Week 8 power rankings. Us three are going to give our rankings 15 through 1, and then we're going to at the very end. So let me go down to mine. So starting through, I'm going to go 15 through 10. I got Pittsburgh at 15, the Saints at 14, Kansas City at 13, Raiders at 12, Browns at 11, and then I got the Chargers rounding it up at the 10 spot. Then 9 through 5, I got Baltimore at 9, Cincinnati at 8, Buffalo at 7, Green Bay at 6, and Tennessee at 5. And then rounding it out, I got Cowboys at 4, Bucks at 3, Rams at 2, Cardinals at 1.
I respect it. I like it. I'll go ahead and go next. At 15, I've got Saints, 14 Steelers, 13 Chiefs, 12 Browns, 11 Raiders, 10 Chargers. So I think we had pretty similar ones.
Just a couple teams flip flopped. You had the Steelers,
Yeah.
Saints swapped, and then you got Browns, Raiders swapped.
9 Ravens, 8 Cowboys, 7 Bills, Titans are 6, 5 Bengals, Packers are 4th, and then top 3 Buccaneers 3, Rams 2, Cardinals 1.
So with mine, I I had trouble picking my 15 spot. So I gave some honorable mentions. My honorable mentions are the Chiefs and the Patriots. The Patriots wins are some big wins, teams you wouldn't really expect them to play great against. Some wins that are there. I mean, they have 2 wins against the Jets and blew them out in both games. So, you know, but their losses are not really huge losses against some big teams that they played, minus, I think, one. I can't remember the exact final score. And then the Chiefs, you can't ever count out the Chiefs, especially considering they've been to back-to-back Super Bowls, winning the first of the two. So I had trouble picking between 3 teams for the 15 spot, but who got the 15 spot was the Steelers for me. Then I had the Saints at 14, the Vikings at 13, the Browns at 12, the Raiders at 11, and then getting into the top 10, I had Chargers at 10, Bills at 9, Ravens at 8. Titans are number 7, Bengals are number 6, Cowboys at 5, Packers at 4, and then we all had the same top 3, Buccaneers at 3, Rams at 2, and Cardinals at 1.
Yeah, I feel like that top 3 is kind of sealed off, at least for right now.
I think you can kind of move around. You can decide between the Rams and the Buccaneers, honestly, for who gets 2. I think it's pretty close, but I think the Rams defense is what's really sealing the deal for that number 2 spot.
Yeah, that and the Rams win over the Buccaneers. That just kind of puts them over for me, at least.
Yeah, I agree
Uh,
with that.
yeah, as soon as the Rams lose a game and the Buccaneers go one up on them, it'll flip flop, and I'm not sure where the Rams would land after that. But uh, what do you guys think? I was a little bit higher on the Bengals than you guys were. Is there a reason behind that? Are you guys sold on them yet?
Yeah, no, I need to get your thoughts. Bengals being above the Bills and at least the Cowboys.
I think
So right now, okay, go ahead.
I just have the Bengals that high because I feel like they have a lot of momentum right now, as you were saying earlier.
Hmm.
Um, However, one of their losses is against a team I have in the top 4 in the Packers, but their other losses against the Bears, who are probably, I know they're 24th on Bleacher Report's power rankings. So that kind of that made my decision a little harder, but I stuck them at 6 because they have a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah, I always go by who has the most momentum right now, and there are not that many teams that have more momentum than the Bengals. I know you disagree with me, at least with the Bills and Cowboys. Uh, I think that win over Baltimore did it for me, at least for this week. Next week they could drop to 9, but at least for this week they're 5 for me. I don't think there are that many teams that are playing better football because the Bengals don't necessarily have the roster to compete with, the top tier Buccaneers, Rams, Chargers would be a little bit iffy. Teams like that, but I mean, knocked out the Ravens. I don't.
I need
I'm not. Go ahead.
I need that now. This, don't get me wrong. This is a statement win. This was a statement win for Cincinnati and all that. But I need to see it again. I need to see them put up this kind of offense again and that kind of defense against a elite playoff team. We Baltimore's always going to be in the playoffs. That's whether if they make noise or not. That's to be decided. But they're always
It
going to be a wild card spot.
it wasn't too long ago that everybody was ringing the Ravens bell, saying Lamar's the MVP, and I mean, I said that he's been looking like 2019 Lamar. Yeah, 2020? Yeah.
It was 2019.
I mean,
Wrong. Cincinnati should be over Baltimore for this week, but I think it should be a lot closer than we think.
Yeah, I mean, it was just last week we were saying Lamar is playing like the old Lamar again and
yeah.
blowing out the Chargers, but they're only 8th on my power rankings. They're only 9th on your power rankings, row, and I
They're
mean, it's it's
Well, that's
so
because of the loss.
yeah. I mean, that loss is so because half of the teams above them, not even half, most of the teams above them, I think could probably beat them again if it came down to it. My only toss up is the Titans, and could they come back better and stronger against the Bengals? And then the Cowboys, I stuck the Cowboys at 5. And originally I said, I don't know if I should put them that high because their defense, and I was going to pose a question in the grill about the Cowboys defense, but I looked at their stats and they're bottom half of the league in at least half of the primary defensive stats. So it was weird putting them at 5 for me, but their passing game has just been very good. Like Dak Prescott is playing a lot better than I've said it so many times this episode, but Dak Prescott has played a lot better than a lot of people expected. And it's nice to see him playing well, and I think if they can keep some momentum on him and keep playing at a high caliber, I think that 5 spot is not so far fetched for me.
That defense is just opportunistic with Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, they give up the big plays, they do all that, but they're forcing turnovers. That's what they didn't do last year. And then you do that, and then you add Dak Prescott back into the fold. He did get hurt against the Patriots, but he had the bye. That's why how they got the bye week. Dak's gonna get healthy. Not gonna have to worry about him, and I feel like they have an easy schedule the rest of the way out.
That
That's
bottom
why
half that
how fun.
yeah, that bottom half of our lists though, you're talking about teams that are like right there probably making wild card. And I know we all have the Chiefs at least in conversations. That was one team I was very hesitant on even mentioning, to be honest. I know Colby, you have him at 13. Ronan, you have him at 15, and I have him right on the outside looking in. It's if they can't fix their primary defensive problems, I don't know if they deserve a mention almost, because you have teams that are 9-10 up, just able to beat them almost with ease. It feels like because of just how much that defense is giving up.
I'm
See,
gonna go ahead and give a prediction. I think at the end of the season, or at least by the end of the regular season, we're gonna look back and we're gonna laugh about the thought of Kansas City legitimately falling out of contention for being one of the powerhouses. At least contention. I think they're going to be by the end of the season, they're going to be back to at least somewhat what they were. I mean, shit, that's better than a lot of other offenses. And all they need is their defense to play average or slightly above average, and they're going to win football games. It's just you can't outduel opponents whenever you're turning the ball over a ton, and that falls on Mahomes. And I'm sure he obviously knows that, and I think he'll be able to turn it around.
I do want your guys' take on one last thing. I know I mentioned the Patriots, and you guys didn't. Did that thought ever crush your guys' mind when making your power rankings?
Mac
No.
Jones he's played exceptional, but I just don't think that team, after what was it? Their 2 wins, or no, they have 3 wins now. It's against Miami and then the 2 Jets wins.
Yeah, no, I'm not sold.
Maybe next year, whenever Mac he's in his second year, he's used
Oh
to
yeah.
everything. Maybe they might be up in the 15, just not right now.
Let me check their wins real quick. They lost to the Dolphins in week 1, 17-16, but then bounced back. They bounced back, beat the Jets 25-6. They lost to the Buccaneers, but it was only 19-17.
Mm-hmm.
And then lost to the Cowboys, but it was only by a touchdown. It was 35-29. And then the Texans, they beat 25-22.
Texans,
So
that's what it was.
they're playing well against.
They beat the Texans and the Jets.
Yeah, but they're playing well against these other teams that we have top of our power rankings, and the Bucks, the Cowboys.
You can hang around with them all you want. You still got to get the win.
Yeah,
I do give them credit for playing with Tom Brady in that game. It was a rain game, and then them going blow for blow with Dak Prescott. That was fun to watch. It's just I don't think that they're too young right now.
I guess I just give more credit to a team who's able to stick around, because both of those games, if New England gets one more score in both of those games, they're not 3-4, they're 5-2. So, and they're in conversation for at the very least the 10 spot in power rankings. So I guess I give more credit to a team that's still able to stick around regardless of the teams that you've beat or lost to. I give more credit to them for sticking around with those teams on top of power rankings. But I do understand where you guys are like, yeah, it's just the Texans and the Jets. So I do understand where you're coming from. I just think that because they're able to stick around with those teams, and it might just because Bill Belichick is head coach and he does more game planning than any other coach I've seen. I don't know. I give a little bit more credit than I guess is maybe deserved according to some people.
if we're going by being able to stick or hang in there, I'd go with the Vikings. I'd even say the Vikings are better.
You do have them pretty high on yours.
Yeah, I did feel the Vikings were playing maybe a little better than they probably are, but it was
I think they're playing better than their record. Well, maybe not playing better than their record.
In some cases, yes. In other cases, maybe not.
Right.
The Vikings, they were talked about. When I was watching the Washington and Green Bay game, Greg Olson as commentary said the Vikings are probably the second threat in the NFC North, and if they can get something figured out, then they'll play for a wild card spot.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Green Bay, they've got a tough matchup this Thursday night. You guys want to go ahead and do some picks with the spread?
Sounds good.
Let's get into
All
it.
right. So first up, we've got Green Bay at Arizona. Green Bay is plus 6.5. Arizona minus 6.5. What do you guys think?
That's such a weird spread. I kind of expected it to be a little closer in terms of the points, but I guess Arizona's record kind of takes away from that.
Devontae Adams is out.
Oh, correct.
Just
Hmm.
from that alone, I gotta give it to Arizona.
Yeah, for that,
I
for
think
that,
it's a close game, no matter if Devontae Adams played or not, just because you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think
But
that front seven on Arizona is also going to be able to just shut down Aaron Jones pretty well.
you might have another repeat of what happened against the football team.
Yeah. Um, I'll take Arizona's spread for -6.5.
Do it, Ronan. I know you want to.
Who'd you take? Colby, did you already go?
Yeah, I already gave Arizona. I'm going
Okay.
Arizona.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going Green Bay. Give it
I,
to me. Give it to me.
Hey, somebody
I
bring him on
think
bad beats. Somebody call Scott Van Pelt, get him on bad beats real quick.
I think they might be able to pull a little bit of an upset. Thursday night football, everybody's watching. Cardinals are undefeated. All it takes is a little bit of a shaky start for Kyler Murray, and it could be Green Bay's game. But next up, Pittsburgh plus 3.5 at Cleveland minus 3.5. What do you guys think?
Baker's questionable for the game right now, but he wasn't at practice Monday. Um,
uh,
e-
Stefanski said he'll name a starter come probably Saturday or Friday.
Gotcha.
He's not going to name a quarterback right now.
For me, it's really just is Baker playing, and do they have at least one of the running backs?
Nick Chubb is back.
Hmm.
I'm gonna take the Cleveland -3.5.
Ronan, what do you think?
You know, Baker coming off of that injury, like I said, I'm not really sold on him. Well, I'm sold on him, but this season with that injury, I don't know if he's going to be as effective. And with that Pittsburgh defense, and
Alex,
Najee Harris has
Alex Collins ran
continued to look good. You said
for
what?
Alex Collins. Last time Pittsburgh played, ran for 100 yards. So I'm not sure what Nick Chubb is about to do to us.
I'm going to take Pitt.
Hmm. You know what? Give me Pitt. I think our defense, no matter who's starting, is gonna give Baker or Case Keenum just make their life hell, and I think that offense will somehow pull it through. It'll be a close one, like it always is.
All right, next up, we've got Tennessee minus 1.5 at Indianapolis plus 1.5.
Hmm. Almost like Indy in this.
Yeah, that plus one
Home,
and a
it's
half is
enticing.
yeah that plus 1.5 is interesting.
I'll go ahead and pick first. I'm gonna go ahead and take Tennessee. I Derrick Henry didn't have the triple digits last week. I don't see that happening again.
Yeah, yeah. I think Derrick Henry kills the Colts, so I'm gonna take them.
Put it on a headline.
Somebody mark it down. Um,
Derrick Henry kills Colts.
I think I'm gonna take Tennessee as well. I think
Look at
uh,
that.
I think if Derrick Henry can just put up triple digits, it's over for Indy. Honestly,
Yeah, I'm with you. Next up, New England plus 5.5 at the Chargers minus 5.5. That's kind of a weird game.
yeah, it's a rematch from last year. That's for sure. Herbert's looking to get his revenge after Belichick prepared that defense for him and put up 3 fantasy points. I'm still upset about that. Um, man,
Uh,
can
the
New
team.
England's go ahead,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you were talking before me. Go ahead.
Okay. It's just can New England's defense hold off Herbert and can Mac Jones make a few spectacular plays again? You know, I I just I don't know if he can do it. I'm gonna take LA.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers and SoFi minus 5.5. I don't think I don't think it'll be that close. At least I think they'll at least win by 7.
See, I think the Patriots can keep this close. I gotta go with them. I think the coaching is really gonna play a difference with how Belichick's gonna run that defense, get them prepared for Chargers. I don't think Brandon Staley is right. Like in the Super Bowl, you could see the coaching from Sean McVay and Bill Belichick. You saw the difference. I think you're gonna see the difference between Brandon Staley's like ship and then Bill Belichick's.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Brandon Staley's in his rookie year of being a head coach and going up against Bill Belichick. That's a really good point. But I guess we can go on to the next game, Dallas, Minnesota. I believe that's Sunday Night Football. Dallas minus 2.5 at Minnesota plus 2.5. What do you guys think?
I think Dallas comes out and easily beats Minnesota.
Is Kurt going to be able to make some good passes and play as the fantasy quarterback we all know he is? That's all I know Kirk Cousins for. It's not all I know him
Average.
for. He's average, but he's one of the better fantasy quarterbacks you can draft. A lot
He's
of
kind of
people are
turning
high on
into
him.
Matt Ryan, like fantasy kind
Yeah,
of
Yeah.
get that kind of stature.
I like that comparison.
It's for me. It's I know I asked about Kirk Cousins, but I think it really just falls on Minnesota's defense. Is that defense able to play to the potential that we know they can, or are they just gonna fall flat again? Um, Honestly, I'll take Minnesota's plus 2.5.
I'm torn right now. I'm not a.
Gotta give us something.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Dallas minus 2.5. I don't think Minnesota's defense will be able to stop Dak. I was honestly trying to convince myself to take Minnesota because I do think that they're a pretty good team, and I think they do have the shot to take any of those top 10, top 15 teams down at any point. But minus 2.5 or 2.5 is just a weird spread, and if you're taking 2.5, you're basically saying that they're going to win. I doubt that it comes down to 1 or 2 points. Very few times does it. So I'm gonna take Dallas minus 2.5.
See, I feel like it'll be a little closer, honestly. Like that 2.5 spread is right there. I think it does come down to that field goal for me at least.
I don't know. No, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with it. I'm not letting you convince me. Dallas minus 2.5. We're moving on to the next. Giants, Kansas City. The Giants are visiting the Chiefs. The Giants plus 10, Chiefs minus 10. That is a pretty big spread. What do you guys think?
I almost want to. Give me the Giants. I think that defense is going to play out of its mind on Monday night and make Patrick Mahomes. Wait, didn't Jabril Peppers get put on IR? Never mind.
He did.
I just talked my own self out of it. Yeah, no, never mind.
Well, you know what? If you're not taking it, I am. Give me the Giants.
The big blue defense, I'm like, it's still decent. It's not what it was last year, but it's still good to keep them in this game for that plus 10. But I gotta go KC.
Well, actually,
See,
well, hang on. The spread is what's really throwing me off. If it weren't for the spread, I'm taking the Giants. But
If it weren't for the spread,
money line.
I'm good.
I'd take the Giants money line, honestly.
Really?
With the spread, I feel like there's so much more that goes into the spread than there is just a regular money line. A money line you can win by 1 and get away with it.
Well, plus 10. I mean, Giants are getting 10 points.
Yeah, I
Makes
know.
it.
I
If you
guess.
think that they're gonna be,
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I'm still taking the Giants. I'm taking the Giants. I'm not talking myself out of this. I hyped myself up before I said that. I'm taking the Giants.
I'm taking KC. I think Mahomes is tossing for 350 yards, at least 3 touchdowns. Travis Kelce's gonna have a day. I think it'll be. We hear ya, media, everybody. We hear ya. The ship's falling apart. The dynasty's over, but not so fast.
I'm marking that
I
down.
think.
Put it in.
Why?
I'm marking your Mahomes prediction down. 350
What?
yards, 3 touchdowns. I'm marking it down.
I mean,
I don't doubt it's gonna happen. I'm just listen. I'm taking my big upset here. All right, you can put me on bad beats all you want. I talked crap about your Green Bay pick being on bad beats. I'll hop on bad
it's
beats
not.
all I want for this.
I think Mahomes goes for 350, 3 touchdowns.
It's not a lucrative thing. I'm just saying, if it ends up being 211, a touchdown and a pick,
I'll put money on it.
you'll put
It's just
money on
prediction.
it.
I said I'm not putting money.
Oh, okay. I was like, you'll put
No, sir.
money on it.
I'm not putting money on that Chiefs team right now. Jeez.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You have no idea what's about to come out there. That Chiefs team minus 10, that's it's a little bit bold, but I think Mahomes he'll bounce back.
You'll figure it out
Yeah.
after you get failed by the Titans.
Yeah. All right, I think that's all we've got. You guys have anything to add?
Nope, I think that's everything.
I'll be expecting my call from Scott Van Pelt after this week.
Alrighty, well, thank you for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Iron Grid, and we hope you enjoy your football-filled weekend. Have a good one.
Peace.
Deuces.